Imagine it's Tuesday night. You're sitting at the kitchen table, the glow of your laptop screen reflecting off a half-empty cup of coffee. You just got paid 3 days ago, but as you look at your banking app, that familiar cold knot starts to tighten in your stomach. The rent cleared. The utility bill was $20 higher than you expected. You bought groceries, nothing fancy, just the essentials. And suddenly, that fresh start feeling of payday has evaporated. You start doing that mental gymnastics we all know too well. If I skip the oil change, I can make it. If I use the credit card for the gas bill, I'll pay it off next month. It's a quiet, exhausting kind of panic. It's not a movie-style disaster. It's just the heavy, persistent weight of feeling like you're running a race on a treadmill that keeps getting faster while you're slowly running out of breath. You aren't lazy. You aren't stupid. In fact, you're probably a genius at stretching a dollar. So why does it feel like, no matter how hard you work, you're always just one check engine light away from total collapse? We've been told a very specific story about why people stay stuck. The world loves to point at your coffee, your subscription services, or your lack of hustle. They make it sound like a moral failing, like if you just had more discipline, you'd be fine. But here's the truth that most financial gurus miss. Living paycheck to paycheck isn't just a math problem. If it were just about numbers, you would have solved it by now. It's a psychological and systemic trap. When you live in a state of constant financial scarcity, your brain actually changes. It enters a state called tunneling. When you're focused on how to survive the next 48 hours, your brain physically loses the capacity to plan for the next 48 months. It's like trying to solve a crossword puzzle while someone is screaming in your ear. You can't think about long-term wealth because your nervous system is screaming about short-term survival. We're going to stop blaming your willpower today. We're going to talk about why the system is designed to keep you in that tunnel, and more importantly, how we start widening your vision so you can finally see the exit. To understand how to stop, we have to understand the scarcity loop. Think about the last time you had a small win. Maybe a tiny bonus or a tax refund. What happened? Usually an emergency happened to meet that exact amount of money. The car broke. The dentist called. It feels like the universe is out to get you. But psychology tells us something different. When we live on a low income, we are in a constant state of decision fatigue. This is why, after a long, grueling shift, it's so hard to say no to that $12 takeout meal. It's not that you're irresponsible. It's that your brain is desperately seeking a dopamine hit to compensate for the sheer stress of existing in a low-income environment. We call this protest spending. It's a way of reclaiming a tiny bit of humanity in a life that feels like it's all about bills. Then there's the late fee tax. It is incredibly expensive to be poor. If you don't have $50 for a bill today, you'll pay $85 in 2 weeks because of the late fee. If you can't afford a $500 car repair today, you'll pay $3,000 for a new transmission in 6 months. This is the Boots theory of socioeconomic unfairness. A person who can afford $50 boots that last 10 years spends less than the person who can only afford $10 boots that need replacing every season. When you're on a low income, you aren't just fighting your bank account. You're fighting the compounding interest of poverty. So, how do we break a cycle that is literally wired into our brains and our economy? It starts with a shift in how we define safety. For a long time, you've probably viewed money as something that leaves you. You get it, and then it goes to someone else. The landlord, the electric company, the grocery store. Create and generate a 3D image that best describes this scene. The turning point happens when you decide to become a stakeholder in your own life, even if it's only for $1. This isn't about saving in the traditional boring sense. This is about buying back your bandwidth. We need to create a buffer, not because we want to be rich, but because we want to stop being scared. When you have even just $200 in a drawer or a separate account that is off limits, something happens to your psychology. That tunnel begins to open up. You stop making decisions out of desperation and start making them out of intention. Peace of mind doesn't come from a six-figure salary. It comes from the gap between what you have and what you need. And since we can't always control the what you have part immediately, we have to become obsessed with protecting that gap. We aren't going to talk about side hustles that require 18 hours a day. We're going to talk about financial first aid. First, we have to automate the invisibility trick. If you wait until the end of the month to see what's left over to save, the answer will always be zero. Always. Because the world is designed to take what you have. You need to move a small, almost insulting amount of money, maybe $5 or $10, the very second you get paid. Put it in an account at a completely different bank. Don't even look at the login. This isn't for a vacation. This is your sanity fund. Second, we need to do a subscription audit, but not for the reason you think. It's not about the $15. It's about the leaking energy. Every automatic withdrawal you don't use is a tiny reminder that you aren't in control. Canceling one unused service is a psychological win. It's you saying, I am the gatekeeper of my resources. Third, we have to tackle the grocery trap. Food is usually the only flexible part of a low-income budget, which means it's the part we mess up the most. Instead of a massive monthly shop, try unit pricing. Look at the price per ounce, not the price of the box. Buy the boring, ugly, generic brands. Why? Because every 50 cents you save on pasta is 50 cents. You are stealing back from the system and putting into your sanity fund. Finally, we have to talk about the list. Most people avoid their bank accounts because it hurts to look. But avoidance is the fuel for the paycheck-to-paycheck fire. Pick one day a week, just 10 minutes, to look at the numbers. Don't judge them. Just look at them. You can't navigate a forest if you're afraid to look at the map. If you're reading this and feeling like you failed because you haven't mastered these things yet, I want you to take a breath. You are surviving in a world that is very expensive and often very cold. The fact that you are here looking for a way out means you haven't given up. That resilience is your greatest asset. Breaking the cycle of living paycheck to paycheck on a low income is not a sprint. It's not even a marathon. It's a slow, deliberate walk out of a dark room. Some days you'll trip. Some days you'll feel like you've taken 3 steps back because the water heater leaked or your hours got cut. But please remember, progress isn't a straight line. It's a jagged one that over time trends upward. You don't need to fix your entire life by Friday. You just need to be 1% more intentional than you were yesterday. Because eventually those tiny increments of intention turn into a buffer. And that buffer turns into freedom. And freedom is the ability to wake up on a Tuesday morning and not feel that knot in your stomach. You're doing better than you think. Just keep going.